Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for the first webinar in our 7-part series. My name's Will Martin and I'm one of the co-founders of WoodsCamp. And today I wanted to explore why we think private woodland owners are so important. The management of forests gets a lot of public scrutiny, and although I've found myself diving into these debates, lately I've become increasingly frustrated by the lack of attention on what I think is a critical challenge for forest conservation and rural economic well-being. And that's really, how do we encourage healthy forests on private land? Forests are hugely important. The benefits are immeasurable, really. You can look at clean water and habitat for our wildlife species, to the materials that build our homes and are manufactured at the core of our rural economies. And of course, forests are beautiful too, and they offer a totally enriching environment for walking, hiking, or hunting under a leafy canopy. If you're watching this, I likely don't need to spend any more time convincing you of the value of forest land. But because of those benefits, society also has a legitimate interest in the health of our forests, regardless of ownership. But figuring out how to balance society's diverse interests with the goals of individual landowners or forest managers often leads to conflict, especially on public land. What more often gets missed in those debates is that half of the most critical forest land in America is actually owned by individual families. There are millions of forest owners, and their goals are every bit as diverse as the communities of plants and animals that cross their boundary lines. Addressing environmental and economic challenges in this context is every bit as important as the public land debates. It's harder, much harder, but absolutely as important. Here are some examples to help you understand what I'm talking about. So Vermont has an amazing concentration of forest habitat for migratory songbirds, and 80% of that forest area is privately owned. The good folks at Audubon Society of Vermont and the American Forest Foundation are running some really interesting programs for landowners to help restore bird habitat. But clearly, if we want to make sure that there's lovely songbirds out in our forest lands, we have to keep figuring out how to work with the majority of private family forest owners in Vermont. Another example is actually the Cumberland Plateau in Alabama. It's one of the most ecologically diverse regions in the country, and 96% of that forest is privately owned. WoodsCamp's actually partnered with the My Alabama Woods Collaborative to promote the restoration of shortleaf pine forests in the Cumberland. Shortleaf's a natural forest type that provides some key habitats, but now only covers about 2% of its original range. We're helping landowners in Alabama find opportunities and funding to help to rebuild those shortleaf forests. We're also helping landowners in the watersheds of critical rivers and streams in Alabama and helping connect them to programs and find actions on their property that will help to protect water quality. Most folks don't realize this, but over $20 billion worth of timber is purchased from family forest lands each year in North America and Europe alone. In many states, family forests are the primary source of supply for the forest industry and play a vital role in keeping rural jobs going. Family forests in the US also hold about 78 million acres of critical forest habitat, and good stewardship of the woodlot is actually essential for the survival of so many of our plants and animals. So where do the issues come up on family forests? Why don't we see better support for landowners to care for their forest land? It's useful to think about this at a landscape level. If you were managing this forest area, you could make decisions about where your key watersheds are, where your wildlife habitats are, decisions about what forests you might want to work in, where you can do timber sales. Maybe there are areas that need some planting work or thinning to make sure that forest is growing as healthy as possible. The challenge is that the landscapes actually look like this. Every one of those yellow boxes is an individual property. That's an owner with their own history, goals, and even family dynamics that will drive their decision making. As a landowner, it can be easy to forget that your forest is actually part of such a big picture. And your decisions on whether or not to be active in the management of your forest actually does affect issues in the broader environment and economy. Where so many landowners aren't sure what to do on their land and end up doing nothing, there are real consequences for forest health. Landowners need better options to benefit from their land and realize the potential of their forest. Data from the National Woodland Owners Survey and our own data from WoodsCamp's users shows that landowners on average rank wildlife, aesthetics, and recreation benefits far above financial interests. From our experience in running WoodsCamp, though, I would also argue that there's an important nuance to what this research is showing us. The data doesn't actually say that landowners are not interested in financial outcomes, but rather it indicates that landowners are less likely to participate in commercial activity if it comes at the expense of the other benefits they value on their land. I don't know how that resonates with your experience, but it certainly, as a forest professional, when I talk to landowners and meet with them on their properties, that's very much what I'm hearing from them. They want to manage their land for a whole range of benefits, but they would also like to benefit from the financial potential of that property. A woodlot is actually most often the most valuable asset a family owns beyond their home. And in addition to enjoying the land, family forest owners are looking for an opportunity to access financial benefits while they grow the value of their land over time. Landowners need to be able to sell timber at a fair price and harvest in a way that doesn't undermine all the other benefits of owning that family forest property. It's this really interesting balance that people are trying to strike, and we need to design our programs and our services so that we can help landowners find that balance between the many, many benefits of owning that property and real opportunity for financial outcomes as well. So in order to maintain forest habitat for our wildlife species, to maintain drinking water clean drinking water in our communities, in order to maintain rural jobs in the forest industry, we need landowners to be active stewards of the forest. All right. Hopefully you found that motivating for all the benefits on your land. If you haven't already signed up or just want to ask some questions, you can chat with me live on Facebook Messenger. Our page is at Grow Your Forest. You can start a conversation there, and I'd really love to hear what you think so far. The next video in our 7-part series will cover building up the wildlife habitat in your forest, and we'll send it out to you directly next week. Thank you very much, everyone.